Welcome to the very first episode of the Home Care Experience with TNA. I'm Amy Taylor, and together with my co-host, Troy Brooks, we're excited to kick off this podcast adventure with you. Here on the Home Care Experience, we'll explore everything from stories and challenges to successes and tips in home care and hospice, and maybe just a little bit of humor. We'll help you navigate this ever-changing industry. In today's episode, we'll talk about why we decided to launch this podcast, what you can expect from future episodes, and why this industry is one of the most impactful and important spaces to work in. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's dive into episode 1 of the Home Care Experience with TNA. Hi, everybody. I am Amy Taylor, and this is Troy Brooks with me, and this is our very first podcast of the Home Care Experience with TNA. And so we want to spend today talking about why we wanted to do this, why we think we've got some interesting insights to share with everybody. We've both been in the industry a long time, coming from different perspectives. And so we just feel like we've got some good information to share. And, you know, those of you that know us, we also think we're pretty funny. And
we are funny to us.
I mean to us, we are. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe you'll think we're funny too. We are not going for the comedy slot though, so don't worry about that. So Troy, why don't you get us started? Tell us about yourself.
I mean, you know, we met 20 years ago over the summer of 2004, and right around then, because like I said, I remember that August. I met you, and then like that August, Texas Association for Home Care had its annual meeting in Austin. And I was working in Austin at the point, at that time, living and working in Austin. You were living and working in Austin. And I remember when we met, like we started talking about different situations we were dealing with. And then we realized after we talked a little bit, we were talking about the same people. And that's when we realized we represented a lot of the same people.
Yep.
And so the thing that has, for me, that's happened. So I had worked for the state Department of Human Services, which is now has rolled into the Texas Health and Human Services Commission for 5 years. And that's sort of like after law school, that was my graduate school. And so you had a similar, guess what you cut your teeth or whatever in home care accounting. Anyway, so for me, it's like there's something that's happened recently where a lot of that experience is gelled. And so I see things very differently than I did even 5 years ago, and the only thing I can attribute to it is just, you know, this experience. And the way I talk to clients has changed. And so I've gotten to where I like to share insight from that experience. And so that's part of my reason for wanting to do the podcast, is just to be able to share that, because I find there are a lot of little things that if people knew about, if they're in the industry and they knew these little things, that it would help a lot. So
I like the idea, and I'll go back to my background in a minute, but so in my accounting world, I have a really strong group of accountants, CPAs, accountants. I call them my CPA buddies. And while we don't have a podcast, we're very much connected. And I really compare it. I've got my accounting group and I've got my home care hospice group, which would be for the most part, Texas TAC, Texas Home Care, whatever.
Texas Association of Home Care and Hospice.
Yeah, it's too much to say. So we call it TAC, or some people call it TAC, but we're Team TAC. Okay. My people know who they are. And anyways, but I love the idea of the community and giving back to the community, but also bringing more resources and bringing a bigger voice, but sharing those inside stories and sharing don't do it this way because that was a bad experience. And hey, this seems to be working. And I really want to see more, I think, in Texas, which we have clients elsewhere, but, you know, we're based in Texas. I'm from Oklahoma, so I've got a good experience there too. But in Texas, there is a very good home care community. And so when I say home care, I'm talking very globally. That covers home health, PAS, hospice care in the home, those things. So I use that term broadly, but there's a great community, but I want to bring it I want to amplify it more, and I want to bring more people in to share their stories. And, who do we plan on having on here? Now, we have not confirmed any of these, but we've got some ideas.
Yeah.
Some people from TAC, maybe some people from HHSC, some providers that have good stories that they want to share.
For some reason, people like us and want to talk to us. Some of that I don't know, because some of these people, like with the government, I've sued them before, and they still talk to me and like me. But that's another exciting thing is just to be able to do better if they're in a home environment. They do better. And to me, there's something really powerful about that. So there's something very powerful about the industry as a whole.
And I can't do wound care. So this is my way of participating and trying to give, I don't want to say give back, but give back and be involved. And my team kind of likes it too, because they think I've got a couple different team members that have had special experiences with home care or hospice. And then to be able to be part of a team that services that industry exclusively, they think it's really cool, because we're number crunchers. And even Katie at TAC, she knows, I'm serious about wound care. Don't even put my exhibit table next to the wound care or across from it.
Yeah.
Recently, I was across kind of.
Oh, do they have pictures?
Yes, and they have videos and they have demos. And not demos, but fakes. It's gross. I can't stomach it very well, guys.
I never knew when I left law school that I was going to learn so much about wound care and not be a clinician. Just had no clue.
You know what? And that's another thing about our clients that what I love is, for the most part, and this is starting to get less and less, but in the beginning, everybody's a caregiver, maybe a marketer, but they are caregivers of some sort. It wasn't as common as it's starting to be now, that you get outside, business people coming in. And I'm not saying that they're not business savvy, but there's not a degree in home health management. There is a degree in nursing home administration. Yeah. So my nursing home guys, because we do have a handful of nursing homes that we work with, they're degreed nursing home administrators. That's what they went to school for. But I feel like so many of our clients probably worked for another agency at some point and then started their own. And I love working with those kind of people that are entrepreneurial spirits. That's what I am. Somebody's got to keep me tied to the ground. Otherwise, I'll be starting all kinds of stuff. So I do have bigger plans for a whole thing. But I'm getting old.
What you're talking about, though, with that entrepreneurial spirit is, I have a lot of times trying to explain to lawyer friends who are representing maybe a well-established company, there's a difference. And if you're dealing with that person who started the company, and they're very driven, they're a unique type of person. So there's that. But that's one of the, you just hit on one of those things where, if you understand that these people, for the most part, started from a caregiving perspective, they're very giving people. They want to help. That helps in dealing with them and helping to advise them. And the other thing that I've noticed is that over the past, I don't know how long it's been going on, probably the whole 20 years that I've been in private practice, is that private equity buys into healthcare, because from looking at it from afar, it's profitable. The private equity groups that have done the best, and from my perspective, in Texas, are the ones who have maintained at the operational level people who are familiar with the environment. And because, as we'll talk about a lot, it's just different. So home care in Texas is going to be different from a lot of other places. The private equity groups who have done well in Texas are people who have invested. they maintain their oversight, but the people who are actually carrying out the operations are familiar with that Texas environment.
Yeah. Texas, remember, it's its own little country down here.
It is.
Yeah. Well, on my background, so I graduated in December 96 and jumped right into work in January of 97. And we have some puppies in the office. And so Emma Lou is standing up on Troy's leg over there. Emma, okay. And the bulldog's snoring in the background. I don't know if anybody can hear that. But anyways, that's my house. That's how it is. But I landed in home care from the get-go, and it was way back in 97. And that was a time, and back then it was really home health, Medicare home health. I was in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the Wild West when it comes to business. I've been through a couple of different things there that attributes to that, but that other business venture was nowhere near home care. So we'll save that for another day. But being there, so that was right in the middle of going from cost reimbursement to the PPS system. So we were under IPS, interim payment system, and it was really annihilating agencies left and right. I think we lost 30% of our, freestanding agencies in the country. So anyways, that's just where I landed. And I got introduced into the first introduction was what not to do, because these people were going to jail. They were going to prison for being fraudulent. And because back then you got reimbursed what you spent. And so this particular company was doing a lot of management fees. So they were taking all their profits and paying them out as management fees to their own management company. And they got busted. But that was my first introduction into the industry. And then I have stayed here ever since.
Well, what I try to tell people when I'm, trying to describe you to people, which, can be a chore. Anyway, I tell them about your accounting experience, that you started out you went into the deep end. I mean, back when cost reports had a significant effect on what people made, and they had big ramifications, whereas now they're on the Medicare side, they're required and they're important, but they don't have like a direct impact. And so, learning cost reporting from that perspective, I think at that period, probably started your journey of insight. Also, you started before the interim payment system, right? 97.
So I don't know when IPS was it. I feel like it was like 97, 98, 99. I know PPS was 2000.
Yeah. And that's when a lot of people went under.
Yep.
Even when I started in private practice in 2004. And so for even a few years after that, I was dealing with people who had
all
gone
those
under.
big overpayments.
Yes. I was dealing with overpayments even at that stage.
Yeah.
They were at the tail end, and the businesses were long gone. But that's
because once we got to IPS, overpayments went away for home care. Now, and then that's when hospice came online for us, because they all of a sudden in 2000, they had to start filing Medicare cost reports. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, they didn't. So then we started getting hospices. And then now, just that pendulum, when I explained it to like my friends, I said, either hospice is getting hammered or home health is getting hammered, like with regulations and oversight and trying to shut them down. And so now I'm seeing a lot more people coming into hospice, and for a long time, we had a whole lot more home carers, and hospice kept building. This year, 2024, we filed as many home health Medicare cost reports as we did hospice Medicare cost reports, exactly the same number. So we're kind of at a 50-50 split.
Well, that's another thing is this, my insight. I mean, I see, because I deal with all the programs in home care, whether it be hospice, pediatric private duty nursing, pediatric therapy, personal assistant services. Then you got Medicare skilled certified home health, and you got just regular licensed only home health, which is also skilled. I see a lot of the commonalities, and so that helps. And sort of like, because you can see the things that are in common, you can compare and contrast, and it helps me to understand and make better decisions, or help my clients make better decisions. But one of the interesting things, and that's another reason for doing this podcast, is that at some point or another, one of the area in home care is getting hammered.
That's what
right now. Hospice is on the rise.
Yeah.
Pediatric therapy has been hammered. Pediatric private duty nursing and pediatric therapy are both now coming under more scrutiny on the managed care side from the Medicaid managed care organizations, the MCOs. So there's always something. The one constant in the business is change.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
always changing.
And other industries, they say that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have no effing clue. Come on over to home care side.
Well, this is a business where that revenue stream of the way you make money, you depended on for a long time, all of a sudden changes.
Yeah.
Now you're going to get notice of that change, but it's going to change. And then you have to shift gears.
This is so silly. Here's what it reminds me of. So in college, I waited tables, right? And I worked at Outback. So I was at Outback all those years, all the way through college. Outback menu never changed. My sister worked at Chili's, and their damn menu changed every quarter. You had to learn a new menu. And that reminds me of like my CPA world. Sure, we have changes, but pre-COVID. COVID blew everything out of the water. But pre-COVID, you'd get a change. It was 5 years in the future. You had a lot of time to react. Whereas I feel like in home care and hospice, they get changes every other month. Something's changing. It's constant change. And I don't know how they do it. The actual operators, I don't know.
That's one of the things, though, about people in the business that I have been fascinated with and I've come to really appreciate is they are very agile.
Yeah. Yes.
That is a word that you were with someone who came up with that word, and I use it now a lot because you have to be agile to be in this business.
Yep, and to stay smaller, and it helps when you're smaller to be agile. I mean, when they get really big, they're still slow to move, but yeah. So
the ones who have done best are the ones who've grown to a certain size are the ones who. Maybe that size, that growth has been organic. They weren't always that big. So they at their core, they still have that agility.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a lot of, one of the other things about the industry is just, I've not gotten over how friendly people are and how kind people are to each other and to deal with. I probably shouldn't say this because it's going to probably end it. But over the past 20 years, I can probably count on both hands that I've gone to dinner with a client and I paid. And normally in the legal world, if I take a client to dinner, I pay. See, I shouldn't have said that because now they're going to expect it. But that to me is a sign that, it's just part of the way it's part of that giving nature, I guess.
Yes. And I love that. On that line, like we become friends.
Yes.
With a lot of our clients. And I've got a tight little friend group and in my little home care world, and we're really tight. And it's funny because they're all providers and only 2 of them are actually clients out of a bigger group, but I don't care. We still go out, and a couple of the guys at the last annual meeting were very kind to protect me. And there was somebody who made me feel a little uncomfortable at the bar. And so I had some guys step up for me. And so I feel like I got some big brothers.
Yeah, it's a great group to be friends with.
Well, the guy was handing out drink tickets. So, I was right up in front. And then I was like, oh, wait, I need to back up a little bit. He's getting a little creepy to me. So you want my attention. You hand out free drink tickets.
You're there, yeah.
And Troy's my chaperone.
So, as much as I can, it's like, herding a cat of one. But
we got stories.
So I guess one of the things that I've come up with that I've realized from all this insight is I was trying to explain to a client this week, there's more than one way to go about this. You have at the end, you have a destination. You have a point you want to reach. And so when it comes to decision making in the business, in the home care business, there are different routes that you can go. And this is one of the struggles I have with clients is sometimes trying to give them all the options confuses them.
Yeah.
But I have to remind them okay, look at the solution. What I've used to tell people is in Houston, If you ask for, okay, how do you get to the airport, Intercontinental up north? People are going to tell you different ways. Now you're going to the same place.
Yeah.
One may take a little bit longer than the other, unless you're going like completely out of the way. It's not going to be that big of a difference. And so that's what I have to explain to people is that in the legal decision-making process and the business-making process, there are different options along the way, but the goal is the same. And I think one of the things that I've experienced, it's really hit me lately in the past couple of years, is that this insight sort of helps me advise clients on those options and which might be best for them and that kind of thing.
I think that's why people come to us, right? Is because we've been doing it for a long time, and they ask me regularly, well, what are your other clients doing? Well, what does their DME per patient day look like? Like they'll ask those questions like, well, what are other people doing? Does anybody else do this? And I love it when somebody's got a really clever idea. Mm-hmm. Usually the ones I'm thinking of always revolved around like employee appreciation and how to take care of your staff. And then they're like, yeah, you can share it with other people. You know, Texas is big enough and not everybody, but far enough apart. I see a lot of camaraderie with the home care agencies here and hospice that I don't necessarily see in the other states.
I've noticed that I've actually had clients in one part of the state go and visit with clients in another just to tour their operation or whatever. It's sort of amazing.
And that's what I mean about my accounting group. So we do that every year. Or sometimes multiple times a year, somebody will have a firm visit. And when it's Matt Patrick having a firm visit, I am there because I'm a lush and Matt Patrick has a full bar in his office. And I said, no, we're not doing that because that's a bad idea. But anyways, seriously, to be able to see, like we do team huddles, and to see his big group do their team huddle, and some people are remote and some are in the office, or the way he has this like wheel that they spin for like little prizes and stuff, and they got to ring the bell. So like if they sell a big deal or close or meet a big deadline or something, they get to ring the bell. All this stuff they do, it's priceless. And that's what I want to bring more people together to talk about that. I understand two providers in Houston may not want to go share all their secrets, but when you're in Houston and Amarillo, I mean, let's have a conversation.
That's the benefit.
I want more of that.
You know,
and even I want to go cross state lines because I'm not being biased. I am from Oklahoma. I am an Okie at heart. I'm not moving back, Mom. But they don't have the association that we have in Texas. So many other states don't have what we had. I saw that the year I moved here. So I moved here in 2002, started the firm in 2002. By the grace of God, landed a really cool client right off the bat, Hope Andrade, down in San Antonio, who then went on to be like Secretary of State and the first Hispanic woman commissioner of TxDOT and like really cool stuff, right? So that's my claim to fame. Well, and also the girl that does Kendra Scott's nails does my nails, or now her husband doesn't, but that's another story.
You're just one step away. You're one manicure away from fame.
From fame. And now I totally forgot what my point was anyways, but bringing everybody together. Oh, but that like Texas really leads the way. And that's one thing I tried to stress when I first got here was like, to other people, I was like, you don't understand what you've got here. Like, you don't understand how good it is here. And
well, I had a client who sold her business in Texas. She wound up moving to Florida. She wound up opening in Florida and thought she was going to get the same kind of support from the industry association there, and she didn't. I mean, it's a good industry. It's a good association. They have good conferences and things like that, but they don't have the staff that provide the resources. You know, I have clients. Well, another thing I was going to say, I have clients that come to me too, and they tell me what their competitors are doing. It's usually something shady that they want me to know about.
And then do they ever ask, okay, well, they're doing it. How can I do it?
Not so much. They don't see the thing about doing it, because one of the things that I do is compliance. And so being a compliance lawyer is sort of like being a preacher. Nobody wants to tell you they're sinning. Nobody wants to tell you they're thinking about sinning. So they sort of like keep it on the up and up, at least, you know, in conversation. So, but they're real keen on telling you that somebody else is deep into the sin pool. Okay. And so But what you're talking about, there's another phrase that I've started using a lot lately over the past few years is what is something going to look like? And having the concept of how something works. And that goes along with the constant change in this business. If you can talk to other people and we can share with you what something looks like on how it works out, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is about that. I think for me, if I'm dealing with the situation and I know how it's going to work, what is it going to look like? There's something about that relieves a lot of anxiety and it helps me plan.
Yeah. Provides a lot of comfort. Well, so we plan on having some folks on. Again, we don't have anything finalized, but we plan on doing some interviews. We plan on what are we going to try to do? One episode a month?
Yeah, that's the plan right now.
And
we also talked about any hot issues that come up that we'll try to do some sort of ad hoc breaking news kind of thing. And there's generally something. It doesn't happen all the time, but there's something out there always.
Yeah, there's always something. We've got a big list of topics to go through. We will not always be here in my beautiful podcast studio in South Austin, almost Driftwood, with my beautiful wall.
Almost Dripping Springs.
Kind of Dripping Springs.
You're in Hays County.
I'm in Hays County, much closer to Driftwood, though. It's just right there, Salt Lake, right down the street. So anyway, we will carry on, and anything else to close out here? And
no, it's just that I really hope that people are able to glean from our experience. I mean, I tell people say, hey, you learn from your mistakes. Well, I ought to be a freaking genius by now.
Yeah.
But I've also learned, one of the things I've gotten to in my career in life is that being able to share with people how mistakes that have happened in the past, not my mistakes, sometimes other people's mistakes, cautionary tales. One time somebody asked me, well, why should I hire a lawyer for this? And at the time, I could think of several reasons. It was sort of like an obvious one to me. Quick answer to that is usually you're better off with the lawyer than without. It really depends on how much something's going to cost, and it's a cost issue. Now, when someone asks a question, given whether it be a transaction or whatever, I can tell them some bad things that would happen that I've seen happen.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot. So those cautionary tales, I like telling sordid stories, but there's something to learn in there too, and they're sordid. And so, and in this business, as I talk with some of my clients, none of my clients have the same problem. Every call I get is different. They might be in the same area, but the basis of the problem is going to be different. And there have been times, and I have a dark sense of humor, but there have been times that clients call me up and tell me their problem, and I start laughing. It's something horrible. And I just start laughing because it's just funny to me because, who could think this? Who could make this up? And that's just one of those things. And there are, I don't know. That's one of the things I like about the industry. Everything's different. I'm never dealing with the same thing every day. That's frustrating because some days I'm always recreating the wheel.
Yeah. Ours is a lot more standardized. It's, kind of day in, day out. But then there's always something exciting.
But you're dealing with the same people I am, and they have crap that goes down that is just, you're in people's homes.
Yep.
And sometimes with some of these programs, you're on the Medicaid side, you're in some very poor folks' homes. And I grew up poor, so I can talk about this. And so it's like, it's a different world.
Did you grow up in a trailer?
No, but I wanted to because everybody in my family had a trailer. My parents had built a house like a few years before I was born, but I so wanted a trailer because they had air conditioning. And so, but all my aunts and uncles at first, they all had trailers. That was their first starter home. And so, I wanted a trailer so bad, but we didn't get one. But anyway, but no, I grew up in the Florida Panhandle. That's where the accent comes from. And so,
and that's what we
everybody's always trying to place my accent.
I know. I was like, so when we first met, we had talked on the phone. We hadn't met in person, and we started comparing notes and stories. And we're like, that sounds like the same people, right? And then, but I almost remember what I wore.
I remember when we were at lunch, you were running the waiters around like crazy because you wanted olive oil and balsamic vinegar and bread and doing stuff with it. And
yes, it just hit me. I remember when
Louis 101. I think they're closed now.
Louis 101. But
really
I was like, I have to go meet this guy in person because I got to figure this accent out. I think I was in a little skirt, like a little mini skirt.
I just remember us, but the biggest thing, I just remember us talking about situations and realizing that we do the same people.
Yep.
And
a lot of the same people.
And the funny thing is those people keep popping up in my life through the years. People that I'm, and I have clients that I've never seen face to face. I mean, that's another thing about this business is like when everything transitioned to virtual, it was pretty easy for me because I had clients that I'm thinking about one that's based in Virginia that I talked to this guy, the CFO, and the CFO is the people. A lot of times I deal with the CFO because CFO knows they have the bird's eye view. They and the CEO have the bird's eye view of the operation. The CFO and I we talked for years. And we never even done Zoom together. I mean, because I met him well before people started doing Zoom. But he is somebody who has given me some insight over the years because, for instance, on how to use cost reports on the Medicaid side, when they used to do them more frequently, he would use cost reports to look for potential acquisitions, stuff like that. There are little things like that I love sharing. It's what I've gotten to, is in a place in life where I really would like for some of the mistakes I've made and other people have made to be a benefit to someone. There's got to be some good that comes out of this. Yeah. And so, but also the success stories of people who did things right. And there's a lot more of that out there. People who did things right.
And we don't hear about those.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things we can talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very cool industry. I did not realize how much a Texan I have become until I moved to back east in New Orleans now, and which is another story in and of itself. But it has its own little culture in New Orleans, even within the state of Louisiana. But what I've learned over the past couple of years, what I've started noticing is there are certain things that are just very Texan.
Very Texan.
But at the same point, we also represent people all over the country.
Yeah. 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 I've also become a little more Texan than I ever thought because this weekend is the start of the college football playoffs for 2024. And we got Texas and Clemson, and I am rooting hard for Texas. I mean, I still can't throw hook 'em horns and any of that. I can't do that, but I'm rooting for him.
And you went to see Robert Earl King last night. How much more Texan does that get?
I sure did. Right. I don't know. The Pat Green was pretty good, too.
Well, that is.
But then I had to look up their ages. Pat Green's like 20 years younger. I was like, okay, well, maybe not quite that much, but a lot younger. So I was like, yeah, because Robert Earl had to sit down. And it was funny, too, because he started. So it was a Christmas special. He started with just a traditional Christmas story song like Oh Holy Night or something. And y'all, his voice. So before I moved here, I was coming to visit all the time. I was dating a guy that lived here, and he was a big music guy. And so we were always going out, and I didn't get Robert Earl King. I just didn't get it. And I was like, you guys, he can't even sing. What is the deal here? And then then you're here and you just get it. So Denise went with me last night. She didn't know. She didn't know him. And so a coworker said, here, listen to this. So she listened a little bit, but she told it by the time we left, she was like, I get it. And it was a lot of fun, but I was up in the balcony and it was a lot of gray hair up there. And I was getting frustrated that they were not getting excited enough about the good songs that were coming on. And I could see down, I was like, we need to be down there next time.
Yeah, so. Isn't it interesting that you pick, you automatically pick tickets in the geriatric section? Yeah, that's really, right. I don't think that's a comment right there.
So, have potential clients next to me. All right. Well, we better wrap this one up because we can sit and talk for hours and hours. So thank you guys. We hope that you will join us. It will consistently be Troy and I. There may be some where we do them separate or whatever. We may not always be in the same place, but we hope to be not we hope to be entertaining and informative. That's
the way I have my career has been. It's been entertaining and substantive. And so I think, and for both of us, I think that's one of the reasons we've been friends for so long is that we have that same approach. And hopefully there's something that folks can glean out of that.
Yeah, I think we also have the same sense of humor.
That's pretty.
I am very proud. I've kept it clean.
We didn't use one bad word.
I know. I don't know what to think about that. I cannot, we might have to put an explicit label on it because I cannot promise to always stay that way. And I know some of my besties in the industry are even more, they talk worse than
Colorful?
I do. And more colorful. Yes, they're even more colorful. So I think they might be disappointed if I'm too straight-laced.
Well, it's part of the vernacular. Let's just put it that way.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Home Care Experience with TNA. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it insightful. You can find more episodes of the Home Care Experience wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We'd love it if you could share this podcast with your network and/or leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are passionate about home care and hospice. Visit thehomecareexperience.com for links and resources in the show notes. Until next time, take care and keep making a difference in the lives of those you serve.